Is there any big lessons that you guys learned that you still carry with you to this day?
I was sort of musing to Lawson earlier today that there's problems that we tackled years ago, even a couple of years ago, a few years ago in some cases, that now I would like welcome and think, oh, this is going to be easy.
Hmm.
You know, it never gets easier, you just get better. There's definitely been a few challenges. I think early on, it was sort of how do we get, maximum throughput with just a few people? How can we do things faster, iterate quickly? And then, we would end up getting some technical challenges. I think we had some early technical challenges probably on High Castle. That was a big one that sort of opened up a couple of different kinds of challenges for us. But, you know, I think up until that point, those were some of the biggest environments we'd rendered.
Right.
So like talking about specific challenges, like I remember that one being one for sure.
I think the biggest challenge for us really has been that and this, I spoke at one point about this being sort of an advantage, but it's also to some extent a disadvantage, which is we came up as independent visual effects artists. We did not work, neither of us, at any other visual effects studio. Barnstorm is the only studio we've ever worked at. And as we, started and grew the studio and we bring people in from, various backgrounds, they've all worked somewhere else. And they all have ideas about, pipeline and workflow. And sometimes those ideas jive well together and sometimes they don't. And I think, we tried really hard to be very open-minded about the ways that we're doing things right and the things that we need to change. And so that's a constant learning process. A lot of the times I think it is an advantage that there's no sort of unassailable ideas where we're sort of open to changing pretty much anything, because that's all we've done throughout the entire run of the studio is we've grown and we've changed.
You're malleable.
Yeah, and we like to believe also that again we're not really set in our ways to the point where we wouldn't be able to continue to change. Obviously, as you get bigger and there's more entrenched pipeline and opinions about how things need to be done, and the costs of changing, obviously, midstream on something, can be significant. But I'd like to think that we're still in that place where we can be nimble and we can change the way we look at things and continue to grow and improve when we're introduced to new ideas. We can accept those ideas.
And also, I think it's worthwhile holding on to the things that just because ILM or whatever studio is doing it doesn't mean that we have to do it for a slew of different reasons. But
right.
So this is a conversation I had the other day with a studio owner where a new employee was kind of like, I come from this studio and we should be doing this, and this. And the crass part is me saying, well, we didn't let go of 200 people last month, so maybe
right.
Stick to the way that we're doing things. But all jokes aside, I think that it is a common thing that when you start small, there's a lot of traits that you hold on to, but as you grow, you're kind of forced to let go a little bit. But at the same time, like, there is a lot of things that are working that you got to kind of prioritize, like what are the things that throughout the growing pains we want to hold on to, because like that is the heart of who you guys are. And so it's worthwhile kind of looking at certain things and deciding, well, I'm not going to keep this one, I'm going to throw that away and stick with what has been working so far. Because you look at the climate of certain VFX studios thrive and other ones aren't able to handle going through the storm, I guess. But the fact that you guys have, there's obviously things you are doing right. So some of those times you probably got to turn away from some of the things that might make sense. That bigger studios have got a bigger burn and think more nimble or efficiently about the things that are working.
That's been a defining characteristic of Barnstorm over the years. And honestly, I think that's maybe the defining characteristic of leadership in general, which is kind of knowing when to balance risk versus decisiveness, and understanding when a certain thing may pay off and when a certain thing is a risk. I think there's also kind of knowing when there's like a Rubicon moment of something, or like Amazon is fond of saying, like a two-way door or a one-way door. Being able to duck into an opportunity, sort of dip your toes in it a little bit, see if that's going to work or see if that's going to add efficiency, and then either double down on it if it's working or back off if it's not. I think that's been a really useful kind of mindset for us over the years, but it's definitely a challenge. And I think as we grow, I definitely see where inefficiencies can be added as a company gets larger. But I also see the value of having certain systems in place that when you're only a group of 10 people as a startup are a huge waste of time, right? And so finding when things are going to be the most valuable is, I think, part of the key.
Yeah. Layering in too much infrastructure earlier on is usually the death of most studios, whereas it's inevitable. You can't really handle everything in a spreadsheet or yell across the room when half your team is over in Vancouver versus LA. So yeah.